And welcome back. My first guest is Clarkstown Councilman Michael Graziano. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, George. Good morning.
So happy to have you here, Mike. Welcome to Clarkstown Town Government, huh?
Yeah.
So this is our television station, obviously, our television studio, and this is Hometown Happenings. And actually, I believe this is the 52nd episode of Hometown Happenings that I filmed since I've been supervisor, and just delighted to have you as our guest.
Well, thank you, George. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
So, Mike, it's a great opportunity utilizing this vehicle in this format to tell the residents of Clarkstown who are watching this program a little bit about yourself, about your background, and who you are as a person, and what really kind of got you involved in the community and then into politics. So, why don't we talk a little bit about just your background?
I was born and raised. I was born in Manhattan, but 2 days old. I was in Conger Avenue, 196 South Conger Avenue. I was raised on Conger Avenue all my life. I went to St. Paul School, graduated from St. Paul School after 8 years. It was a great school. The nuns were great. Sister Stephen Gerard was phenomenal, and Sister Stevens. Now the principal, she's still around, but it was a great experience being in the school. It was 8 years of friendship, brotherhood, sisterhood. You got to know all the students because after 8 years. But I've been in Congress, I said, all my life. I have 4 children. Married.
So after St. Paul's, you went to Clarkstown North?
Clarkstown North, right. Graduated from Clarkstown North, class of '81.
Okay. And you and Councilman Borelli are the same year, right?
Frank and I, yes. Councilman Borelli and I graduated the same year. Frank actually and I were in the same Italian class. So it was interesting. But
so someday you'll tell us stories about that.
Yeah, but it was good. It was North was a fantastic school. My sister and I went there. I have one sister. She lives in Europe, in Italy. But from there, then I went to St. Thomas Aquinas. I did a 2-year there, and then I finished 2 years at SUNY Purchase, graduated from SUNY Purchase. And then from there, I was actually driving a Mack truck for Mr. Bertolino, believe it or not, while I was looking for a job. And I had written a story for my senior thesis, and a friend of mine, Eileen Ryan, a good dear friend of mine, somehow Time Warner Publishing got my story through her. She knew someone there, and they called me in to interview me about the story, and they offered me a job. So my career started out at Warner Publishing. And from there, I was there for 2 years, and I had joined the fire department at that point. And I met a gentleman there at the fire department, good friend of mine, Chris Coyle. He was in telecommunications, and he got me into telecom. And I never looked back. It's 32 years later that I've been in telecommunications. It's been a great career. I've traveled the world with it, met many people, traveled the United States.
So what's the name of the company that you work for now?
Right now I work for a company called Crown Castle. April 8th, 18 years I'm there. And Crown Castle is the second leading cell tower provider in the country. Right. And I work in the fiber division, and what I do is I work in the financial vertical, and I provide data networks into the exchanges for low latency trading, high frequency trading, and I build these networks that allows the traders trade a very quick way, and also provide data networks going into the data centers to provide move data around. Every trade we make, every transaction we make, every ATM we use, all this information, all this data has to be stored, and we build into the data centers around the country, and to store this data.
Right, and so it's a really interesting career. It's actually there's some major changes that are taking place in the in that entire environment, in that world. With the movement to 5G, and eventually, it's going to go beyond 5G. We're seeing smaller cells that are being placed throughout Rockland County, here in Clarkstown. A need for more cell towers, but even smaller cells for the repeaters and what have you.
It's interesting you say that, because Crown Castle, we're becoming the leading small cell provider in the country. And like you said, what they do is they're putting with all these cars coming up to 5Gs. Pretty soon, all the automobiles can have 5Gs, and all the new phones, 5G network, and it's already out there. The small cell, what it does is they're connecting in the cities, and they put them on telephone poles and street poles, the small little devices. And what allows is that you will never lose connectivity, you never lose Wi-Fi, and you'll be at the 5G level. So we're doing that not only in the major cities, but also in the suburban areas. So wherever you're going to be driving around in a car or walking somewhere, you're always going to be connected.
Right. Right.
So and technology, obviously, it's evolving constantly, and this is the next wave.
And so it's a great level of experience that you're bringing into Clarkstown town government, because at this point in time, I mean, it's something that we're actually dealing with as well. We've got several requests for cell towers around the town, some on town property, some not on town property, as well as a lot of questions that residents are asking about some of these smaller cells that are being placed all around Rockland County and Clarkstown. So it's good to have an expert, now on the town board.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I can add, to the board and to the town and add value.
Sure.
I mean, my goal is to help the town, and I tell you, George, my career took off, and like I said, I've been here 32 years, and it's funny, I contributed my career to Congress Fire Department.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to next, because you really, I know it was kind of bittersweet to a certain extent. You won a very convincing victory against two other candidates in November, and now you took office in January, replacing Councilman Bradley for in Ward 2 as a councilman for Ward 2. As we, one of the things that was bittersweet, though, is that you had been a Congress Fire Commissioner for,
20 years.
20 years.
2019, I served my 20th year as Fire Commissioner.
So explain the job of, because I want to break down the fire department service into two areas. So you've been a volunteer firefighter for over 30 years.
32 years would be March 7th.
Right. So 32 years as a volunteer firefighter in the Congress Fire Department, but 20 years you completed, and it had to stop because you couldn't be both a fire commissioner and a councilman, so you had to step down from that. But you were fire commissioner for 20 years. So explain what a fire commissioner does, and then we can talk about your fire service.
Well, fire commission, basically, we control the district budget. We administer the laws by the state of New York, OSHA laws, and we follow the guidelines what they give us, and we make sure they are followed through the fire company.
How big is the fire district?
Well, it's the vicinity of Congress. You got to figure Congress has almost 10,000 people, so it's fairly large. It goes from Dutchtown in border Haverstraw off 9W, and as far south as into Valley Cottage, borderline of Valley Cottage, obviously, and border New City. So it's a pretty large area.
Right. And the Congress Fire Department also will have some responses along, obviously, some of the state roadways, and
yes,
also with the Hudson River as well.
Yeah, Hudson River, no. Well, Dutchtown is right on the border of Hudson River, but we do not go into Hudson. Very rare.
But you do cover. You also help with Rockland Lake, Congress.
Yes, Rockland Lake we do assist with. We help assist Rockland Lake Firehouse. We assist Valley Cottage as well, and in turn there's mutual. But we have many lakes in Congress, obviously. You got Sword Out, you got Congress Lake, you got the ponds, and so there's a lot of water. We have a good crew for the water rescue, but we do cover many. There's 304 parts of 304 we cover, 9W, 303, all state roads and county roads. So it's we do a lot. We do from unfortunately car crashes, extrication or fire calls. So the fire company does a lot more than we just had a great experience with 3 members. We saved a life a week and a half ago. Someone was going to cardiac arrest, and so happened to be that the firemen were there at that Sunday morning, and the fire doors were open, the bay doors, and the woman pulled in, and her husband was in cardiac arrest, and she frankly was for help, and the men went into motion, and they saved her life. They had to AED him twice, and we're very proud of these gentlemen, and that's what we're prepared for. We train, and the fire department has great men and women there. They put a lot of time. People do not realize how much time these volunteer firemen put in training, maintaining classes, going to fire calls. People say, "Oh, geez, it's 3 in the afternoon." Or they think the fire truck's going to roll. The fire truck does roll. They drop their work and they go. 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whenever there's a call. Holidays, they are there. They take away time from their families, take away the time from their work, dedicated to community. And I do hope that the people realize of Rockland County, not just Congress, when you see a fireman or a fire lady, just thank them because they put a lot of their own time in, and it's volunteer, it's not paid.
Right.
So
want to kind of move along a little bit, just where you can talk a little bit about your family. But before we get to that, we'll finish up on the fire department. What was probably the most difficult call that you can recall in 30 plus years of being a fireman that you were on? That's number one. And then maybe you could also speak a little bit about how somebody can become a fireman.
Sure. Probably the most difficult call was September 16th, 1996. We had a house fire, and a gentleman, they came from Ireland, and I guess he was tired. He fell asleep on the chair. That's how they determined it was, and he was smoking. And the chair caught fire. He burnt up. The house caught fire. And that was one of the things I recall, 1996. And I recall being in the basement where he was staying, and there was like sliding doors going out, and that's where he was. And I recall going in there and not knowing that it was a body because it was so charred. Did not realize I was right there, and it just stood with me. And then another one was a fire call in Valley Cottage when a young child died in a fire, and that I remember that. And that was also in 1996, I believe it was April. And it just, some things new. But to become a volunteer fireman and fire lady, we could use the help. Like I said, it's a volunteer. You can call the firehouse. You can go on the website, Congress Fire, www.congress.fd. You can apply on there. Our recruitment will be in touch with you. If you give your name, phone number, email, we will be in touch with you. Or you can just stop by any firehouse, knock on the door if someone is there, or put your name on a piece of paper and leave it in one of our mailboxes. We will reach out to you. We're always open for volunteers.
Right.
The whole county needs volunteers, not just Congress, but we all could use volunteers.
Right. And a lot of people realize, but not everybody does. They just assume that, there's fire services here, and that it's going to materialize. They're volunteers.
Yes.
And there is a tax line for the fire districts on people's bills, tax bills that will cover things for the fire district, things like electricity, the building, the equipment, that stuff. But the firefighters are not paid. They're all volunteers. And if we had a paid fire service here, there would be a very significant tax impact. So it's wonderful that we have such dedicated volunteers here.
Well, if you really think about it, George, the amount of money the costs down. I mean, think about it. We have, let's say you have 3 shifts a day and 6 members, a day on each shift. The expense of payroll and health care and so on and so forth, it's a huge expense. And some people would say, oh, well, we need all those firehouses if we had one. But think of the expenses you would have. These men and women are volunteering their time, and it's just your tax bill is probably the least expensive bill on the tax bill.
Right.
that people don't realize. You know, what you're getting for your money is tremendous. And like I said, if you see a volunteer, just reach out to them and just say thanks. That's all I have to say. I mean, Congress, Valley Cottage, West Nyack, we work hand in hand. Haverstraw,
New City, right? Yeah.
New City. It's Nanuet. I mean, we just work in hand. They're all good men and women.
So we're almost out of time, but this has moved really quickly. So I do want to just ask you about your family. Maybe you could speak a little bit about your family, so the residents know a little bit about yourself, a little more personally.
Sure.
And then maybe one or two of the things that you're hoping to work on over the next 2 years as a councilman.
Well, like I said, I'm a father of four. My four children are all products of Clarkstown School District. I have three daughters and a son. One daughter is a school teacher at Lakewood, and one works for an Italian cosmetic company here in Congress, and one is a registered nurse at Columbia in Manhattan. She works in the pediatrics unit. She's a graduate of Dominican last May, and she's a hard worker, and she got a job down in the city. And my son is attending Marist. He's a sophomore. He was a good son, and
good ball player.
Good
too.
ball player. He was a good ball player. Now he's concentrating on his studies. He's going to be traveling abroad coming this June and then next September. So he kind of club ball is probably his last club ball year. But my wife Denise, we've been married for 28 years, and we raised a great family. I've been very fortunate in my life, George, in many ways. And I have my 85-year-old mother living with me, which is fantastic. And but she'll probably going back in August. She'll go back to Italy because my sister lives there. So she does a few months, 6 months there, 6 months here.
Right.
So and I got a dog. His name is Travado. So he's a great dog. But I am an avid hunter. So just the one thing to let you know that I am an avid hunter. I'm not sure if people like that, but it's one of my enjoyments. It's just being out there.
Yeah. And you're also the Christmas tree guy, right?
Yes.
So you don't sell Christmas trees. You've got explain what that means. The Christmas
Well, it
tree
started out about 20 years ago. My mother was always saying, "When you light that tree up? When you light that tree up?" I have a 65-foot tree. It's about 65 feet now, in front of my yard. And I said, "Yeah, Mom. Yep. We will do it. We will do it." Finally, we did it. And now it's just gotten. It started out with a few lights. Now we have over 5,000 lights on it, LED lights, 5,000 feet of strands, and we have a tree company come, and he does it. His name is Walter, and does a fantastic job. And we just had a restrung this year because it seems like every 2 or 3 years the lights don't come down because it's an expense. Yeah. But we restrain it 2 or 3 years because the tree just expands and grows, and but we light it, and the town. It's funny, around October time frame, I have parents come, "Mike, you gonna light the tree? You gonna light the tree?" I said, "Yeah, I'll light it." And I usually test it like in October, late October to early November, to make sure it's lit, in case if I have to call Walter in to do some adjustments or fix something. But it's rewarding because I literally have people drive by, they stop, they look, they take photographs. Some people say it's a landmark for them. And when they're coming home from work and it's dark and it's December, and they look at the tree and it gives them a smile, so it makes me feel good. And I'm glad everyone enjoys it. I really do.
Good. So Mike, I know we're pretty much out of time, but you're going to be leading the committee on Rockin' Country Day School.
Yes.
It's in your area, and I know that you've already hit the ground running. You've had a couple of community meetings with residents over at the Mountain View condominiums, and are really just applying yourself to a lot of the tasks of being a councilman. If folks want to get in contact with you, how do they get in contact with you?
I'm open, George. I'm very transparent. You can call the town. My number is 845-639-2056. Leave your name and phone number. I will certainly get back to you.
They can email you as well?
They can email me as well at m.graziano@clarkstown.org, or just, you know what, FaceTime, PM me your information. I will get back to you. I am like that way. I'm transparent. I want to help the town out, George. I was, like I said, I was raised in Congress. I played Little League in Congress. I'm a fabric. Congers is in my fabric, and if I can help Congers, Valley College, and West Nyack, and Upper Nyack, and part of New City, and Clarkstown in general, I'm here. Any way I can help out, that's what I like to do. I've been a volunteer fireman for so many years. To me, helping people out, it's second nature to me. But one of my initiatives is like Rock and Country Day School. Obviously, we purchased that piece of property. People are asking for first responder housing, from the ambulance corps to the volunteer firemen to paramedics. Senior housing is needed. Through the campaigning, I've met so many people, so many seniors that have homes and they want to go to senior housing because it's an expense, it's a burden to have a home, and that's what I kept on hearing: senior housing, senior housing. So I am hoping that collectively with the town board and yourself, that we can turn into Rock and Country Day School a great little community for senior housing first responders. And I look forward to taking that initiative and working on that one. Secondly, also I want to work on some initiatives for the volunteers as well. So those are just some of them. I mean, in 36 days there's so much reading involved and inundated. So I'm trying to grab everything, grasp it. It's a huge learning curve for me. But those are some of the things I want to work on. I have initiative for Mount View. I had a town board meeting with them last Thursday night. I do have another, and they gave me some topics which I would like to work on. I understand their concern. I live on Kings Highway. I exactly know what they're speaking about, the traffic. Kings Highway in the morning and at night is a pass through for people coming from Haverstraw and New City. And I know what they're talking about, that Mountain View to cut into the thruway. So I feel for you, and I definitely will work that with you. I am meeting with the traffic board on Mountain View on Monday, as well as one in Congers. But those are some of the things I want to work on. Monday evening at 7 o'clock at the VMA in Congers. On the 10th of February, I will have a town hall meeting for Congers, Valley Cottage, anyone who care to attend. I also will be having one in Valley Cottage. Probably we're trying to arrange it with the Valley Cottage Library for Valley Cottage and Upper Nyack again. And New City and West Nyack, I'm going to try to do something collectively.
Great. So. Well done, Mike. Really happy to have you. Look forward to working with you over the next 2 years. That's pretty much, we're a little over time, so we want to kind of finish here. But I do want to thank you for being a great guest, and really, you hit the ground running. You've done some training. You went up to Albany for a conference for newly elected officials, and you with our highway superintendent Bob Malone, and really look forward to to seeing you grow as a councilman and some of the new initiatives that you're going to tackle. It's good to see a Congress boy, making good.
Thanks, George. One quickly, I know we're running out of time, but I just realized Clarkstown North has Teresa Kenny, former Clarkstown North, Jimmy Monahan, myself, Bob Malone, and Frank Pirelli. Yeah. So Clarkstown North has produced some political people here that we can actually make an impact for the people of Rockland. Yeah. So it's I'm proud of Clarkstown North.
It's funny. So you and Frank are class of '81, and it's interesting. There's 5 town supervisors, and 3 of us happen to be class of 1983. I went to Clarkstown South. Right. Teresa Kenny went to Clarkstown North, class of '83. And Michael Speck went to Rampo High School, class of '83. Wow. Okay. So it's we have kind of class reunions now at the supervisor meetings.
I think Clarkstown School District should do something for. It would be pretty cool. It would be.
Anyway, Mike, thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
All right.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back.